Yeah, 11 people on board, eh? How are we, ladies and gentlemen? Ready for 2021. I think we're live on air. Steve and I were just gas bagging away, and Steve all of a sudden goes, you know what? We should be live. And we were deep in conversation and weren't live. So how is everybody?
Are we live now? Because I still haven't seen us pop up on the monitor over there.
Okay, I just said, how are you? We should be live.
How are you?
Yeah, I think we're live.
Hasn't popped up.
It hasn't popped.
Yeah, there it goes. It popped up.
So
big delay today.
Let us know who's here, who's joining us today, and let us know if you can see us in the chat. I see a few people seem to be online. Anyone want to own up? Here's Lorenus is joining us. Awesome. Happy New Year.
Andrew. Awesome. Good to see Hans. Welcome.
Wow, you're getting a fresher feed than me. Andrew, yeah. Hans, yeah, yours is updating quicker than mine. So
yeah, it's that internet down there in the New Zealand. It takes a while to get there.
It takes a while, right? To get around the globe and get down here. Wow, good to have you join us. Good to be on air, and good to start 2021, which of course we thought was going to be a lot quieter or more interesting than 2020. And then, you know, some crazy stuff goes on in the US.
Yeah, pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. Oh, well, I stay away from it. I'm trying to avoid even watching the news anymore. It just is annoying.
Everything's settled down, though. Well, from once again, looking from my side of the world, it seems like everything's settled down, as in now that the election is settled as such. So yeah, we're now back into business.
Yeah, back to normal now. Now we, it's just focusing on work, focusing on business. We got we made our Rapid Start CRM app free a while back, so now we got over 20,000 users.
Wow!
So that thing is blowing up.
That is amazing. That is so good.
Yeah, and we really haven't even promoted it that much. That's just I'll send out a tweet every now and then, and that's about all it takes. We got.
Yeah, Scott, the bed came off probably back in December. When Steve first saw me today, he just about fell off his chair.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
As my wife did, she wasn't expecting it either. I didn't announce it. I just, in the middle, I was getting up 3 times a night for the baby, changing nappies and diapers and things like this. And one night I got up and it was like a bit scratchy and stuff. And I was just like, man, this morning I'm just going to shave it off. And so shaved it off, had a shower, and then done and dusted. And of course, everybody that has it's been 6 years I've had a beard. And so it's been a while to no longer have one.
Turn your head so much quicker now.
Yeah. It doesn't create a vortex of wind and stuff.
Yeah, but where do you store your extra food, though?
Yeah, I get fuller now.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you had it going pretty long there for a while towards the end of the season or last season. And I can imagine you could store an entire turkey in there.
Malaretti, how are you? Good to have you on the call. Steve and I were just chatting about really what's happened over the break and what's happening going forward and what plans for the future might look like.
Yeah.
And what so Steve, what is it? This is Wednesday today. Is it Wednesday for me? It is Wednesday for me in my country. I think it's Tuesday for you. But hey, Flojo, how are you? How's it up in Vancouver there? So this is my 3rd day back at work this year.
Yeah.
So I'm only just kind of getting back into things.
I didn't stop. I wasn't. I didn't have that life of luxury that you New Zealanders have.
It's summertime. Remember, it's midsummer, so all the summer holidays.
You'll notice I'm wearing a sweatshirt because it's actually in the 50s outside here, Fahrenheit.
Wow.
A little nippy, especially for my newfound hobby of motorcycling. It's been a little cold, but not too cold. We still got it. We were out riding around last night. It was 49 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was, not freezing, but it was definitely cool on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So
totally. So Flo, New Zealand is good. It's summer. And so when I talk about temperature, I'm going to use degrees Celsius. And it's been standard pretty much 29, 30 degrees each day, degrees Celsius outside. So very warm, beautiful summer. Love living here in the country. Since we're last on air, as you can see, I got a bit of a new studio, which I'm in the final stages of finishing off. Might give you a bit of a quick tour, a lot more to go. You see, I got a whole bunch of soundproofing and stuff in place there. Got a new microphone now in play, which has been, fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds great.
And yeah, I've got more to do. I've got a 49-inch screen going in shortly. So 49-inch Samsung, that's going to be a game changer. It's going to be nice.
Yeah. So now on that screen, you can set it up to act almost like multiple screens, right?
So yeah, I'm going to put two feeds into the screen. So in other words, my graphic card has 4 outs on the graphics card, which when I say it hasn't arrived yet, the one I've purchased. And what that'll mean is I'll send 2 video signals to the monitor, and therefore I can have it kind of like 2 27-inch screens, which would
just one monitor, but
no
it'll act like
no,
2 separate ones.
Yeah, so they're 2 totally separate data, but then I can hit a button and it automatically will go boom and just take the one screen feed if I want to go, that full size.
Yeah, that'll come in handy when you're working on those big spreadsheets.
Big spreadsheets. 4 degrees Celsius in Vancouver, man, that's cold. Sunny, I see in California. Art. I think Art's, I'm not sure. I need to jump into LinkedIn. There's a bit of comms over the summer break. What's news for you though, Steve? What's happening at the moment?
Well, I guess probably the big news lots of folks are wanting to hear about, and I guess we'll be talking about in the Power Platform Happy Hour, whatever that other thing is we got coming up. When is that?
On Friday, right? We're doing the recording Friday, and I think they're publishing next week. Yeah.
So I guess we're going to do a little spoiler here for our audience about the release notes. I went through them, and I think one word comes to mind for the release notes for me, and that was underwhelming. Yeah, I think that the pace seems to have slowed, and we've said this actually the past several calls. The pace of stuff coming out of the business applications group definitely seems to have slowed. I think it means, as I said before, they're really working on fixing some of the stuff they got. You can only keep launching new stuff that's half baked over and over before eventually you have to go back and finish baking the stuff you launched before. So I think there's been more effort spent on that. We've got the team member license enforcement just hit this week.
Yeah, I saw that. So I saw some messages around that.
Oh yeah, our phone's been ringing off the hook from customers saying, "Hey, what's wrong with Dynamics? We can't do anything." As well, that's because you bought team member licenses when I told you not to.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of getting out of the license sale business. I think I told you before the break. Microsoft kind of reached out to direct CSPs and said, "Hey, guess what? New rules. You got to sell at least 300,000 net value to Microsoft and pay minimum 15,000 US a year support contract in order to continue to sell direct." That combined with us moving customers off the bigger licenses down to these smaller $10 passes, which there isn't much margin in anyway. It's kind of getting me where I'm really no longer interested in the licensing. It's funny too, because when I first got involved with,
get you? What does the 15K get you?
Advanced support for partners.
This has been going on for years. I was earlier this week. I was doing a video with EY Kelderman out of London. There, another MVP. Yeah. He's got a video series that he does on YouTube called the Oops Factor, and he was asking about, and I won't steal too much of the show because it hasn't been published yet, but, across my career, what are those oopses, that have happened that, and what were the lessons learned from them? And one of the things I was saying is that Microsoft, even back in the day, I think it was around 7,000 US, these support contracts that they would want us to pay for to be a Microsoft Gold or Silver partner. And over our first year of having it, because we kind of followed the party line, so to speak, is that we found we never raised a single support ticket.
Nope.
And then there would be cases where there was fundamentally something wrong with the software. So in other words, this was a bug. And of course, if you raised it as a support ticket, what you're doing is helping them solve their bug issue, but you're paying to help them solve their bug issue. And it's funny that they've kept this, I don't know whether it's kind of a barrier to entry to kind of sort out the adults from the children, so to speak, to play the game. I don't know if that's their intention, but is there value to a partner? Like I often don't like it when people go, you get these benefits and these benefits and these benefits. And you're like, hang on, they're only benefits if I find them of value to me. Otherwise, they're just features. And the last thing I want is a shit ton of features that mean nothing to making my business run.
I think that, there's obviously some direct CSPs out there that sell licenses across the whole stack, all different products. They sell you any product license that's available in the catalog, and they don't necessarily have expertise in all those products. So they would get themselves in situations where they probably would need support and would use support. In our case, we were only selling one thing, PowerApps licensing or Dynamics licensing. We know that product. So we never had a need for support. So same thing, because we did pay for it for a year. Looked back, hadn't opened a single ticket for that entire year, and I canceled it because it was just, we didn't need it. Yeah. But I could imagine if I was involved in a lot of different products, we might have utilized it a little more. But I do think that it's a mechanism to get rid of, I remember several years ago when they first launched the program, they were like begging us to get into it. They were begging us to qualify and get, and then they lowered the bar to where they could get some people in as direct CSPs.
Yeah.
And now they've come back, and I think they've decided, well, there's too many small CSPs or people that aren't selling millions of dollars of license revenue, and it's too much work for us. And at the time, Disty was a complete clusterfuck. I mean, they did not have their act together at all when they first launched CSP. I remember at the very first event when they announced CSP, and Gabriella Schuster was up on a stage in front of, I don't know if it was PAC, I don't know where it was, but announcing this new thing called CSP.
Yeah.
And our distributors are all going to be, this is going to be the main motion with distributors. And I'm looking at the distributors, and they're all looking at each other like, what the hell is she talking about?
Yeah.
They were clueless when this whole thing launched. I think Microsoft made an assumption that the distributors were going to jump on it, and they didn't jump on it. The distributors took forever to get their act together, and it was painful.
Yeah.
But I think by now, most of them have got it kind of figured out. So now Microsoft's ready to say, okay, all you smaller partners that were direct, we want you now to go back through the distributors.
Yeah.
But this is coming at a time when I'm thinking there's no revenue in licensing anyway.
Yeah.
At least not for us selling this, the inexpensive, there's no revenue in it.
Yeah. And I think even Microsoft, they're starting to own that engagement a lot more direct with customers as well. That licensing, that motion seems to be coming from them. How are you, Norm? Good to have you join us.
Especially with PowerApps. I mean, if you're going to buy some PowerApps licenses for your company, you can go direct in the portal and buy them from Microsoft, or you can buy them from your partner, or you can buy them from a partner through a distributor. But the partner or partner through distributor is adding not much value to the citizen developer model of PowerApps. You don't really need them. They're not adding anything. If anything, they're adding another layer for you to now have to deal with, which I still do. A couple of times a week, some customer will call or send an email and say, hey, we just added 2 users, and can you add 2 licenses? And we're still going in and doing that we're adding no value to that customer.
Yeah.
They can do it themselves,
We've had Thomas join us, and what's that?
The Debbie Diehard.
Debbie Diehard has joined us.
Debbie
Welcome.
Diehard.
Listen, we were having a discussion just before the show.
By the way, that's the Debbie Diehard, not to be confused with any of the other Debbie Diehards.
Okay.
It's yeah.
And you know her personally?
No, I do not, but she's clearly indicated herself as the.
Yep, exactly. Often it's time just to get a handle right that's not been taken by somebody else. So
I also like that she's put in 32-year-old female in Virginia. That's handy.
I think
So now our show's become a dating show,
I
right?
thought it was 32 Fahrenheit, to tell you the truth, but
Oh,
we'll
you know what? I'll bet
32
you're right.
female.
I'm thinking 32-year-old female. You're right. I'll bet it is temperature. Okay, makes sense. Sorry, Debbie.
So one of the things that Steve and I were discussing before the show was what format is this going to take in 2021? So we want to run a quick poll with you, and the poll is I know what we'd typically call a straw poll. In other words, there's no fancy software for this. You've got the chat area, but we're keen to know, should we keep the show going or should we hit it, can it? Is there anything that you would like to see on the show that's different? Like, do you like us if we started bringing some guests on the show? Would you like us to focus on specific topics, like have a show with a theme? Let's say on one of the BizApp products out there, and we can perhaps bring a specialist on from Microsoft. That you can do like the Ask Them Anything Q&A kind of live on air through chat, that type of thing. But what would you like to see?
We've also been thinking about potentially changing the frequency because week to week, there doesn't seem to be that much stuff coming out of Microsoft on a weekly basis to have a lot of content. I mean, we've been able to get through all the shows just talking shit, but maybe if we went, as you and I were talking about, every other week, something like that, so there'd be a little more time for some stuff to happen and things like that.
Okay, we've got 2 votes in. One is SME guests.
Yeah.
And specific topics, great. Love the show. Adding themes and guests would be great. Awesome. More to vote a conference that are around that. What about frequency? What do you think if we went to, do you like the weekly or do you think fortnightly? Talking shit also works. I love that. Agreed.
Well, that's not going to go away.
Yeah, we'll definitely stick with that. We're thinking if we're bringing a guest on, we'd only bring them on for maybe a 15-minute slot within the show. It wouldn't be for the whole show.
So I see a contradiction here already. We have Norm suggesting talking shit works, and we have Art saying more focus, less BS chat.
We can't please everybody, eh? Mix it about,
well,
then ask users in a few months. I like it, Andrew. Good idea.
To Art's point, one of the challenges about, we do a lot of BS chat because, from week to week, there isn't always enough interesting stuff from Microsoft to talk about. So if we went to a every other week format, then, we give a little more time for Microsoft to have some stuff out there that we can actually jump into, and talk about.
Yeah. I mean, remember the origination of the show was me and Steve 2 years ago would do a weekly chat with each other just from, I was in London, he was in the US, and we were just talking about what we saw changes, happenings in the market and how it would affect what we were doing. And we decided to broadcast it, which is, we talk shit all that time as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same format, just now with people listening.
Yeah, Loranis brings up a good point there. Downtime and community, great. The what was I thinking? There was something else I was going to add on this kind of strain of thought. Can't remember what it was. It might come back to me.
Well, we actually have a question here. I see Lorenis's point, though. I mean, if you want to, there's plenty of podcasts and shows and forums and events that are kind of specific topic focused. So we'd have to, have an interesting angle on it that isn't like everything else. And I think part of that angle would just be you and I chewing up some Microsoft person talking about something, which isn't going to happen at any of these other events.
What most of the shows don't allow is this chat type session to run right and people to ask questions live in these type of things. And as I say, we're trying to get people that are a bit more, unique that perhaps everybody doesn't have access to in the community. But it seems that people do like the format. I'd like to ask that question again on frequency. What if we went to a fortnightly or once a month? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, while they're pondering that one, I see Andrew asked a question: will I like D365 CRM out of the box? So I don't know if that's a trick question that he's asking, because I'm pretty sure Andrew would know the answer to that himself, but or what the purpose is there. I mean, obviously to answer that, it's going to depend on where you come from, because we've obviously published a competing product that targets a different market, and I tried to pin down Cunningham on it. I also had a call, which I haven't published yet, with oh, what's the guy's name who runs? Hang on, Ray Smith, who is the GM over the Dynamics 365 sales, which is a direct competitor that we're targeting. I mean, not on equal footing, but we're targeting similar market in a lot of cases. I called him out on it also, because he had said something in a call he did a month ago with the community. Is one of those AMAs, a bunch of people on it, and I'd floated out, not specifically what we're doing, but what are his thoughts about ISVs developing applications that could potentially compete with the first party applications. And he said something like, well, you're going to take your chances that maybe their forms don't work. I'm like, what are you talking about? Their forms don't? I mean, it was just total FUD. Just threw out some FUD there about
Are
some
they
ISV.
saying the forms don't work on their websites, or the forms don't work in their apps that are
The
built
apps.
on Microsoft?
Well, like the app would be built incorrectly or built like crap, and the example he used was something about like maybe the forms don't work. But it was total FUD, just total FUD. So I tried to pin him down a little bit, and Steve has a chat, which should be coming out here probably later on this week when I get around to it.
Yeah.
But I would say, to answer that question out of the box, I don't know anybody who uses CRM out of the box. They're all changing. I mean, frankly, they don't use ours out of the box. Our whole business model, we made it free, which we've now got over 20,000 users. The whole purpose of making that free was that everybody wants to customize. I don't care what they get.
Yeah.
Whether it's the out of the box or something that's more vanilla and build on top.
Are you seeing, with this massive ramp up of people that you're seeing now on your product with Rapid Start, are you getting kind of like aha moments around, I hadn't thought about using it that way or using it for that purpose? Or are there any insights that you're even gaining to feed back into your product roadmap?
Not a lot, because they're installing it through AppSource. It's free, it's customized. They don't need us to customize it. So there's a bunch of customers out there that have installed it and are doing their own thing. So I have no visibility of what they're doing, and that's fine. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Our business model now is those customers that want to do stuff that they're not capable, or it's more complex than the typical citizen developer might be able to figure out.
Yeah.
Or maybe they've decided that even though they have a partner, they prefer to deal with a company that built it. So those are the people that are coming to us. And those needs have always been completely custom. So every now and then it'll feed back into the product. I mean, if I had 9 out of 10 people on a customization ask for the same thing, we might think about building that in. And we do. I mean, the product changes all the time. As a matter of fact, one of the things that the ISD Connect Conference was last week, I can't go into a lot of detail because of the NDA, but one of the things they're working on now, early phases, is the ability to push updates to customers.
Right.
So, because right now, you install from AppSource and you're done. So we've got customers out there because this thing's been around since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
We got customers. We probably have, I don't know, 100 versions in the market.
Wow.
Of Rapid Start, where people have installed it, and we never heard from them again. They're off doing their own thing. They customized it, and so a way to be able to kind of manage that update cycle, to be able to push customer, either force push updates if there's broken stuff, or have customers opt in. So there's some interesting stuff happening there, along with licensing. They're moving forward on the ability to be able to license your app using the same licensing engine that Microsoft is using.
Wow.
Which is a step towards commerce.
Yeah.
You can't do commerce without licensing. You got to have licensing first before you can do any commerce. So there's definitely a lot of stuff still happening in the ISV front.
So a couple of things that popped to mind with what you said there. One is, first of all, the ISV Connect Conference, is that that's a new conference, I take it, right? Or has it run before, and kind of what's the format of that?
Yeah, it's run before. Goog started it, and it continued. I don't think it's twice a year. I think it's once a year.
Okay.
These things all run together.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a of course now it's an online conference, and it's basically anybody who is signed an agreement for ISV Connect, meaning you've got an app that's in the marketplace, App Source or Azure Marketplace, any of those marketplaces as an ISV, you'll get an invitation to this. It's all NDA. And it's just focused on the issues of ISVs. It's not, we're not seeing the latest features for the products. We're seeing ISV focused stuff for ISVs. And it was 4 days. It was actually pretty, pretty lengthy.
And was that full of content across those 4 days? Like they were packed sessions, and kind of what type of numbers were in attendance at the event? And actually I've got more questions, so carry on. Answer those.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what the attendance was, but several of the sessions, as always, even in real life, some sessions are packed, and some sessions not so much. There, Alex is clarifying twice a year. Yeah, I didn't think it'd been a year since that last one, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of interest in F&O. So there was, a track of F&O sessions. So I didn't attend any of those. And there were a couple of times during the day where there was just nothing of interest to me. I just kind of picked and choose the ones that I was most interested in listening in on.
So then specifically in the PowerApps / Dynamics 365 space where you're building on Dataverse, for example, so ISV solutions and that, is there kind of any movement to the current person running the program, as predecessor, talked about a model where you wouldn't be able to sideload using solutions apps into client environments unless it went through App Source. Any kind of tracking on that?
I think they dropped that. That was the predecessor, Goog's Steve Guggenheimer, when he was really trying to play hardball around rev share and really trying to lock things down. It's almost like that the whole ISV motion was kind of meandering around. Nobody really grabbed it. Nobody had any balls. And they brought Googs in who said, all right, I'm going to fix this thing. And he just came with a sledgehammer and started banging on everything and everybody and pissed a bunch of ISVs off. But he pushed through some stuff that I don't think anybody before him had the balls to push through.
Yeah.
And some of that he took a pretty hard line to get pushed through. And now he's gone. We've got Toby in place. Toby's not a guy who's going to be banging hammers and pushing people, but he's going to take advantage of the stuff that Goog's also shoved through. So he's not going to roll any of that back because, hey, he didn't do it. The other guy did it. He can just get the benefit. But I think some of the things that went by the boards were that no side loading. They're not going to do that. You'll be able to side load.
They don't even have the engineering right for that to implement, and it'll be a fair bit of engineering to control it. What about the digital signatures? There was talk for some time around every app, of course, has a signature. That it could be identified across Microsoft's data centers, a particular app. And therefore, they were going to make sure from a revenue recognition point of view, using those digital signatures, make sure that you're, coughing up your pound of flesh for if this product's installed in the customer base. Traction?
So I'm still getting the email asking me to self-report.
Yep.
So
that's probably automated from 2 years ago.
Yep. And I don't know if they're going to spend a lot of energy on that. I think what they're thinking is we're going to have licensing. It'll be optional. You don't have to use it, but if you're an app source, you can opt into their licensing machine. They're going to have commerce. The the ISV Studio continues to get better, more valuable, and more useful. And the only way to, that picks up is off of App Source. So if you're side loading, none of your stuff showing up in ISV Studio.
Yeah.
If you're side loading, you can't take advantage of the licensing. If you're side loading, you won't be able to use their commerce engine in the future. So I think their thinking is we're going to make it, first of all, if you're side loading, you're still obligated to pay.
Yep.
So you're either going to cheat, but if you're not going to cheat, you're going to stay legal. Well, then why wouldn't you just go through AppSource and get the benefit of some of these other things that you'd have? And I think that's kind of the more thinking is, let's make it more desirable for an ISV.
So create the value before
who isn't just going to cheat. Yeah.
Create the value before hitting with a fee, so everybody will want to be in it. And that's what I've said. Could you make it so attractive that people will beg to be in it, rather than, it seemed like the program was very much the stick method of motivation, do it or else, rather than the carrot, so attractive. I like your analogy there. What I call the Lenin-Stalin attitude, like, Stalin all through his thing said, this was all Lenin's idea. I'm just carrying on his vision,
Yeah, exactly.
And Toby's on that same thing. One of the things that I've noticed, and, I've got a few clients that I consult to around the world, around ISV and how they position. And what I've noticed is that, and it's quite good operating across different Microsoft subsidiaries, because you hear the story from different folks internally about their interpretation. But when there's no Microsoft person in the field that is KPI'd with that revenue recognition, so nothing's going to hit their bonus in it, guess what? They're not motivated to pull ISVs up on it or do anything, because there's no ramification. And why do they want to be the bad man and say you owe us? And at the end of the day, Microsoft need more success stories of people using their platform to compensate for the number of what could be seen as Microsoft competing directly with ISVs. We've seen what was accelerators in the past now turning into fully fledged licensable solutions. And I know there's some ISVs going, am I next? Is my industry vertical, which I thought we weren't touching verticals. I thought it was only horizontal that was fair game for Microsoft. But, if Microsoft's seeing money and they feel that the partner community is not standing up, they're obviously getting into that game now more and more and creating bespoke or industry vertical, what would have traditionally been ISV-based solutions, even if there's a product and market.
I listened to, so James Phillips did a session during the ISV Connect thing, and of course he's clear who he's talking to is ISVs.
Yeah.
And he talked about everything we're doing is all ISV focused. With we're a platform company. We have no interest in building verticals. We have no interest in doing any of this stuff. Strictly ISV. Kind of completely ignoring that whole healthcare cloud solution. Yeah. But then in another session where somebody was talking about the healthcare cloud solution, they were, of course, talking about all of the opportunity for ISV building on top of that. And to me, I've said this before, it rings a little hollow, because you built a bunch of stuff that historically I might have built as an ISV or an SI might have built for an end customer, and you've taken some money out of the game.
Yeah,
you've scraped it over to your side because it's a licensed product now, but you've taken it out of the pot that the ISVs feed in. You just remove some money, and you're trying to tell us that there's plenty of, well, you didn't create any new opportunity by doing this. You didn't create any new ISV opportunities. You just took some things away, and
yeah.
In a way, kind of leaving some of the crumbs around. Sure, there's some bigger crumbs than others, but I'm concerned about seeing that motion expand with around the other accelerators.
Yeah, Alex makes an interesting point that some, orgs actually block things coming in from AppSource, right? Because they do want to, in the F&O side of things, they do want to control, who's placing what into the environment, that it's gone through a proper, internal process, which, totally understand that. The other thing that kind of I question is, you know, we're a year and a half on now from, you know, the new addendum being signed for a bunch of companies and people choosing whether they're going to be 10% or 20% folks from a from that co-sell kind of fee, right?
Right.
Have you heard of any companies that are seeing a result from that co-sell motion with Microsoft? In other words, they're getting that marketing that was all part of the deal. They're getting, you know, an influx of, and I use the word qualified opportunities that actually result in sales and are not just, oops, somebody filled out a form online with, you know, admin at on Microsoft.com email address, right? That,
Yeah.
you know, you see a heap of them come through and there's no way of identifying who this customer is because admin at on Microsoft, you know, meaningless, right? You can't do anything with that. From a communication, you know that nobody actually has the email address connected to anything on the other side if you tried to email it as somebody trying to sell your ISV solution. Are you seeing it? Can you point me to an ISV? And I know you've got ISV Connected, you know, which is starting to see a lot of the various ISVs join that platform and discussion forums. But are you seeing
Yeah, we got
anybody?
about 100 of them in there. So,
Yeah. Are you
you know,
seeing
I think
anybody going, we're making
the
money?
one
This is
that
really
comes to
worth it?
mind, and actually I had asked Toby Bowers if he could, you know, connect me up to speak with several that have had success.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh yeah, no, I got tons. Well, he was able to come up with 3.
Yeah.
And 2 of the 3, you know, spoke highly of their success on the video interview that I did with them, but on the unrecorded part, we're like, you know, yeah, you know. So you know, as an ISV, as somebody who's, you know, wanting to get favor from Microsoft, you know, you're going to get up there and you're going to wave the flag and say, this is the best program I've ever been involved in my whole freaking life. And then as soon as the mic goes off, you're going to say, I'm not getting anything out of this.
Yeah.
But you're gonna play that party line. The one who I think may actually be getting some success is our buddy Ed from Solgari.
Right.
Because
Do
Solgari,
you know what? I knew you were going to say Solgari was the one. Yeah.
you know, they built a great solution and they've attacked a part of the market that not a lot of other people have.
Yeah.
And they're a great kind of a solution for co-sell because it's really more of an enterprise play. And if you're going to go after enterprise, co-sellers are the ones that, you know, the Microsoft sellers have the relationships.
Yeah.
And, you know, omni-channel, nice big word, type in the search box inside of Microsoft as a seller, you're going to see Solgari solution. So
Yeah.
I think he's had some legitimate success. Although even he couches it that, you know, it's early days and we think it'll get better. Whenever anybody says early days, we think it'll get better, it tells me that it ain't great right now.
Yeah.
But
And especially early days, 3 years in, for me, it's not so much early days anymore. It's just like that comment, in the fullness of time, this is going to come. Yeah, I didn't realize I'd be in the grave by the fullness of time. I thought it was at least going to be in my career, the fullness of time, right? You know, and I'm talking about workflow, the Windows Workflow Foundation functionality in Dynamics 365 against using Power Automate. And it's a long, you know, it was funny at the time and stuff, but now when you're 3 years later, you're like, is this a priority or is this something being pushed? And
you know, and to your point on AppSource, because we've got right now when someone requests information or does a test drive or installs our solution, automatically from AppSource coming into our CRM is a new lead record created from whatever it is they put in. And we've got a workflow that automatically send that customer an email saying, hey, you know, thanks for installing our app. If you want any help, let us know.
Yeah.
At least a third of those bounce. So that's where we know right off the bat, the addresses are bad.
Yep.
And it's kind of a catch-22 because if they tighten that up more, there'll probably be fewer people doing it.
But they'd be more qualified, right? So everybody doesn't waste as much time.
Well, maybe. Now you got to look at how the numbers would lay out. Because right now, first of all, in order to do a test drive or do anything in AppSource, you have to have a Microsoft account. You have to have Microsoft Office 365 account.
How long does it take you, Steve, to create an Office 365 account and not pay for it? And it can be, you know, admin at upthewazoo.com.
It takes some effort to spin up that trial, get the thing put in place. Not a lot, sure, but it takes some effort.
15 minutes?
who's got a Gmail address or something
Yeah.
like that that's just looking for a solution, and they're not going to even bother. They're going to try and log in, say, "Do you want to create an account?" And say, "Nah, I don't want to." So if they loosen that up to where you could authenticate into AppSource with any provider,
Yeah.
there'll probably be more junk
Yeah.
coming in. So it's that. What do you want? Do you want more junk with possibly more real customers, or less junk and possibly losing some real customers?
But the thing is, if it's a real customer, they're gonna get to you, right?
Yeah.
Or is it a tire kicker? Because a lot of the junk is other people going, how did they solve that problem? I want to have a look because I'm going to do it. They're never a customer, right? They're never going to be a customer of you. Nobody installs off AppSource into prod, right? So they're always going to be fake email addresses, etc., because it's always going to be a test dev type environment somewhere, a sandbox that you can have a play in. So it's never going to be legitimate business data, which when you put it up there as an ISV, you expect it's going to be legitimate business data. Then reality kicks in, right? And you find it is like, I've talked to a lot of ISVs, but particularly last year across the podcasts and stuff, and constantly got this thing of, it's a lot of chaff. There's a lot of, it's like more rubbish than almost the effort to get the one lead, the qualified lead that may result in something. And by that time, the customer's already found out who you are. They've probably gone to your website and actually started a legitimate business conversation. Everybody that's trying to hide their identity, I'm always going, you're probably never going to be a legitimate customer.
Yeah, oh yeah, probably most likely competitors or the partners looking to see what you've got or what you're doing and stuff like that. Who knows who these folks are? I mean, I don't know how you can solve that problem though. I mean, it's a marketplace. It's a public marketplace. Anybody can go there. Anybody can look around. They create an account.
Yeah,
they can create a trial. They can install it. I think that. Also, we're not doing Dynamics 365 necessarily. We're doing PowerApps. So one of the challenges is that customer has to be licensed for PowerApps, or they could create a PowerApps trial.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen where customers have, as you say, they're not putting in production, but they can, if they have PowerApps, they can spin up another PowerApps environment in 2 seconds flat, and then go to AppSource and install it from there. There are also some challenges with some of those installation motions. If you went from within your Power App, if you went into settings, AppSource, and tried to install an app from AppSource, it wouldn't install. Well, why are we giving them the fucking button if it doesn't work? Make it work.
Totally.
There was only one path where it would work for a while, and that was if you started at AppSource. If you started within your application, it wouldn't install.
Yeah.
And that was whether you were in Maker or whether you were in Classic or wherever you were, it didn't matter. It would just fail. So you got to wonder how many failures were there. You just don't know.
So one of the other things I'm interested in, we're starting a new year, and I'm really interested to those that are listening live now. What are your thoughts on the labor market? And I'm talking about your opportunity for career development, your opportunity for what's happening out in partner land. I've found it quite exciting seeing Ian Connolly, Mark Christie, Andrew Beebe, and other MVPs get together, and they've started a new MVP company in the United Kingdom. We're seeing Yuka and Auntie and a few other MVPs do it in Finland, in Sweden. You've got Jonas, you've got Gustav and Sara, and man, I mean, they're adding more MVPs all the time. What I'm seeing is, and I mean, Gustav's not a good example because he's been a traditional business, but particularly if we take the Auntie and Yuka, and then what Andrew Beebe and Mark and Ian and stuff are doing in the United Kingdom, and even to some degree, I'm seeing it also in Australia. You've got Bruce down there who he's, set up an ISV, set up a full function practice after being a consultant for many, many years. Is there a move in the market that there's a bunch of consultants that are saying, hey, we've finished working for that traditional partner. We see an opportunity for a new partner model out there. A lot of these people are not just going to go to be, they're more becoming, digital strategists rather than just we sell Dynamics 365 or Power Platform. They might use that as their tool set. But it's an interesting trend that a lot of these MVPs that have been MVPs for some time are starting to go, you know what, we can form our own business. We can get set up. I don't know if they've got, massive financial investment behind them, because I'm always of the opinion, if you're going to launch a very successful ISV business, you really need to have about $1 million in your back pocket that you will consume in the burn time to really get established. That was what I used to say. What I'm seeing now is a lot of these folks that are starting up, they've been inundated with business. They can't keep up with the demand.
I think that you either have to have, a lot of money to start, and this is whether it's SIO or ISV, because either way, you got to pay the payroll to get some work, or you've got to have some customers that you can, start acting on right away.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing with some of these, because we had it here in the US also with, what's the group that, I can't remember the name.
You're
right
not going to say Hitachi, are you? That have got just about the biggest.
No, this is another group
MVPs.
of well-known CRM guys that started a practice down here.
Yep.
But they had customers that they were able to bring in, and as their practice grew, whenever they brought in a new partner.
Congruent X, are you talking about them? Congruent X?
Congruent X. Yeah. So they started with some customers, and then they brought in some additional partners that brought in additional customers. So it almost feels more like the law firm model, where you eat what you kill. And kick something back. But if you're not bringing stuff in the front, we don't need bodies here to consult. We don't need bodies here to develop. We need people that are going to bring in customers and then be able to perform the work.
Well, it's not just a law firm. It's if you look at EY, KPMG, Pricewaterhouse, and Deloitte, as well as Avanade and these other various ones. If you want to be partner in these organizations, the reason you become partner is because you have your own pipeline of business coming in. Then you scale your own teams under you to actually deliver the work, and you are, you have your own P&L. You contribute to the wider business, but you're operating as to the market under one label, KPMG or something like that. But you're actually tapping into the knowledge and expertise of all the other partners in the business, but you are expected to manage your own P&L.
Yeah. Bring in your own customers. Yeah, I think one of the things that's a little unique with what we're seeing, what you described with what Yuka's done over there and what Andrew's doing and what the Congruence guys, in the past, you would have seen these guys launch their own solo practice.
Yeah.
Hang up a shingle. Hey, I'm Joe Blow. Here's my new practice. And maybe they'd have some contracts. Maybe they'd have a couple of customers that they knew, feed them some work for a while, but they can't hit any kind of scale. And so eventually the work just kind of dries up, or they find themselves, as some of the MVPs we know, basically they're working on a single contract. They're almost like an employee, just without any employee benefits. For a company working on a single contract, not real businesses. But now what we're seeing is where previously you might have seen 3 or 4 or 5 of these guys go out and hang up their own shingle. They're coming together and hang up a single shingle. Yeah. Like Forward Forever did. And I think you'd certainly have a better chance to get into larger projects and be able to build that scale to get over that hump of, I can only bill what I can do myself. Yeah. Well, you had 2 people, actually, you've more than doubled. You had 4, you've more than quadrupled the output when you do that.
Totally, because you create this kind of vortex where other stuff gets drawn into it as you get that going. One of the risks is that, I've seen also folks go out, start their own business in the space, and then employ a bunch of people. And those people, none of them are owners in the business or anything like that. So they're just still wanting their paycheck, that type of thing to come in. Yep. But then it's 100, like I had this model in my business, 100% on me then to make sure that I'm feeding all these people. In other words, the money is coming in the door. And anyone that's run a business for a bit realizes that age debt on your books can be a killer to your cash flow, right? when customers are not paying on time. And so therefore then if you're a single owner, all of a sudden that now becomes your focus, is collecting that money because you need it to pay, your staff. I think this model where a bunch of specialists coming together that are very strong in their own subject matter expertise of the ecosystem, that already have a bunch of customers that they've worked for that they can talk to in a non-breaking any clauses type way, does open up opportunity to shed the load. I just remember talking.
I don't know what kind of format these organizations take.
It'd be interesting to get some of them on the show and let's talk about their business models that they've implemented. Yeah,
because I wouldn't be surprised if they're really more just, we're going to operate under a brand, but we're still each independent. We bring in our customers, we bill our customers. If I can help you out, great. You can help me out, great. But you don't come here to get a paycheck from the organization, because the organization is really a brand and an association of these experts. So there's a few different ways I think they definitely could crack that egg.
Yeah, it's definitely, we've seen this massive consolidation that happened pre-COVID. We saw DXC buy up a bunch of companies around the world. We saw, who else did it? Avanad's bought up a bunch of companies. We've seen this consolidation that's gone on. And then it's always interesting is that after the consolidation, you find all the people that really know their stuff. They either move one. Hey?
Yeah, the best people leave.
Yeah, they either go to Microsoft lately. A lot of people have gone into Microsoft because Microsoft are hiring like no tomorrow, and have a lot of opportunities, or they find people to go out and build these new, what I'd call a modern practice, kind of like not a practice that was built on, so many practices came from the dropping tin world, of, installing servers and hardware and, enterprise exchange software and things like that, where Microsoft have made that all click, 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 done. Yeah. That business is all gone. But a lot of the companies that are in market now came from that kind of thoroughbred or breeding line. And now we're seeing this new kind of, I think, business in the Microsoft BizApp space that are much more agile. They're much more, like you say, not into selling licenses. That's not our model. It's not our revenue model anymore. It's more about creating, solutions that really blow a customer away, really deliver. And you know what? If that solution doesn't fit into the cookie cutter 100% of what you can do in a Power App or something else, we'll bring in additional software to support our customer and delivery.
I think one of the things that's become more difficult in this day and age is hiding incompetence. Back in the slinging tin days and running wire, I mean, you could have a whole bunch of incompetence. The customer didn't understand or didn't know the difference. They frankly didn't even know what you were doing. You're back there in some room banging and clanging on some racks and running a bunch of, they had no clue or understanding what you were even doing to identify incompetence. Yeah. But now, in particular in business applications, I mean, they're telling you, I need an application that's going to solve this problem for me. And you're saying, yep, that's a solvable problem. And then you're going to go execute. You can't hide incompetence as easily.
Yeah.
You can't just miss the mark by a mile, or, spend months and months doing something that ordinarily would take, days or weeks.
Yeah.
It's a little too naked right now, incompetence. I think it's probably not good news for the incompetent people. And there's people that are incompetent because they're just plain stupid, and there are people incompetent because they're lazy and haven't taken the time to learn, and I think we're probably starting to work through that group of the people who, you know what, I'm not going to learn something new. I'm close to retiring, and I think we're starting to see them kind of filter, because this stuff's been around long enough that we're starting to see that next generation of people come in.
17 years, 17 years I've been doing this in BizApps, and I was with Serum 1.2. And of course, there's folks that are, if you started on Navision, GP, or any of these other, what we call Dynamics 365 products now, they've got 20 years under their belt. This is a mature market. That's why it's a multi-billion-dollar business now to Microsoft. That's no accident. But of course, there's a whole bunch of new folks coming into the channel, coming into not just the channel, they're starting careers in the space. And they're starting from like the number of messages I get on LinkedIn constantly, not from people trying to sell me stuff, but just asking, how do I start a career in this space? How do I get going? What do I do? Like, how do I transition from wherever they are, their role, you know, it might not even be in Microsoft. How do I get into it? Like, and it's a constant process, I find, of educating around things like community, or, you know, then onto certifications. What's the importance of certifications? Which ones do you take? It's because there's so many millions of certifications, it seems, over the course of last year that are available now. And, you know, people are getting various elements of success, or, you know, what does it prove? They're definitely improved the actual what they're asking for. But it's also creating confusion. And I'm keen to know, kind of also from the folks on the call here, where do you see your career at the end of this year? Like, do you see it changing much? Is it just going to be business as usual? You know, are you happy with your partner? What is it like working for the partner? You know, I just saw a screenshot overnight of a partner contract, and it blew me away. This is what they had their consultants sign was, you know, you give us full power of attorney to make any decisions while you're working for us on your behalf. And I was like, what the actual fuck? Like, you put that into your employment contract that I give you power of attorney? Like,
that's insane.
Do you realize what power of attorney means? Like, someone in New Zealand with power of attorney can switch off the life support system and, you know, have me committed or some shit like that.
Yeah,
I'm not giving that ever to an employer. And yet, fuck, this is what I saw in somebody's contract. And I was just like
that's bold.
Just,
you know, I tell you, it's a sign of, I think while there's a lot of demand in the marketplace, there's also, whenever there's demand, there's a flood of people trying to fill it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people out there now. I'll be interested to follow some of these career tracks of some of the people that we've seen that started as a customer.
Yeah.
Maybe they were doing customer service or whatever. They've discovered PowerApps. They built some app. It became important. They suddenly got in the limelight with Microsoft because the customer had a big logo. Next thing you know, they get hired by Microsoft as an ambassador of you know, a success story. And I'm curious, what's the next path for those? Because we've seen quite a few of those.
Yep.
And where do they end up? Do they work at Microsoft for a couple of years, become good at it, and then go back out on their own, either to the partner marketplace for more money, or start their own thing, or what that path is going to look like? But you know, we're seeing, you know, one of the things I think about the dynamic space, I mean, you could always have just gone and signed up as a partner, but no commitments to signing up as a partner, and hang up a shingle and say, I'm a Dynamics CRM expert. Back in the days when Dynamics was a complicated beast, and, you know, customers didn't dare try and do anything with it, they'd have to hire a partner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was when we really saw lots of charlatans out there that just didn't know what they were doing, because customer certifications are important if the customer is aware they even exist.
Yeah.
MVP has value if a customer has any idea what it means. Credentials, if you're a good salesman, you can outsell somebody with credentials any day of the week.
Yeah.
You know, customers don't understand these things unless they're properly explained to them and the value. So there are lots of customers who are hiring people that didn't know what they were doing. Well, now we've got, you know, citizen developers coming out of the woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, you know, we're going to be flooding the marketplace again with a bunch of folks that, you know, maybe their knowledge and skills are suspect, and they may not even be aware of it.
Yeah.
You know, they think they built some really awesome thing for some company. It's important companies using it. And then you come back and look at that thing and you realize you architected this completely wrong because you didn't know what you were doing. You fumbled your way through and ended up making something that worked, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was good or well built or scalable or dependable or anything. But they think they're an expert now, you know. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
I remember that diagram you shared last year, right? Crazy. You wrote a blog post on.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we're at that time of day. Art's saying, yes, it's more complicated now, the Power Platform. And yes, you know, the Dataverse has, you know, enacted a whole new layer. And, Yeah, it is changing, but I feel like it's probably changing more in label rather than necessary technology in a lot of instances. As you said, you're a bit underwhelmed with the Wave release, so it'll be interesting in a couple of days' time getting on a call where, I'm pretty buoyant about stuff that's happening in the CDP or customer insight space, which is kind of one of my key focus areas at the moment. And I am seeing a lot of traction, but of course it's a newly evolving, developing product and newly evolving category and market. And so, yeah, there is excitement there. But Steve, it looks like our time's up.
It looks like a consensus here is fortnightly. Looks like we got four votes for fortnightly. So
okay,
we could probably activate that immediately and not come back next week. Come back 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. Sounds good. I've got to work out how to turn everything off. I think I end the stream here. So with that, see you later, everybody.
See you guys.
Oops, it was the wrong area. So we're still here. I
Still
just
here.
realized